The earth sign Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Some serial killers under this sign include Harold Shipman, aka Dr. Death, an English general practitioner. He is considered to be one of the most prolific serial killers in modern history, with an estimated 250 victims. On January 31st, year 2000, Harold was found guilty of murdering 15 patients under his care. Dean Corll. Dean Corll, aka the Candyman, was a sex offender who abducted, tortured, and murdered a minimum of 28 teenage boys and young men between 1970 and 1973 in Houston and Pasadena, Texas. He was aided by 2 teenage accomplices, one of which wound up shooting him to death. Israel Keyes. Israel Keyes was a bank robber, burglar, arsonist, kidnapper, and sex offender. He murdered at least 3 people and committed dozens of felonies across the United States from July 2001 till his capture in February 2012. While awaiting trial, Keyes killed himself by slashing his wrists and hanging himself. The air sign Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. Some serial killers under this sign include Gary Ridgway, also known as the Green River Killer. He was convicted of 49 murders committed between the early 1980s and the late 1990s. Before his identity was known, the media gave him his nickname after the first victims were found in the forested areas near the Green River. Robert Hansen. Robert Hansen, popularly known as the Butcher Baker, was a serial killer active in Alaska between 1972 and 1983. Robert abducted, raped, and murdered at least 17 women, many of whom he hunted in the wilderness with a rifle and a knife. Jerry Brudos. Jerry Brudos, aka the Shoe Fetish Slayer, committed the kidnap, rape, and murder of 4 young women between 1968 and 1969 in Oregon. He engaged in necrophilia with the bodies of his victims and preserved specific body parts, satisfying his sexual fetish for women's feet, lingerie, and shoes. The water sign Pisces are ruled by Neptune and Jupiter. Some serial killers under this sign include John Wayne Gacy, an American serial killer and sex offender who tortured and murdered at least 33 young men and boys. He became known as the Killer Clown due to his public performances as a clown prior to the discovery of his crimes. Richard Ramirez. Richard Ramirez, dubbed the Night Stalker, was a sex offender whose crime spree took place in California from June 1984 until his capture in August 1985. Ramirez would often commit burglaries to support his drug addiction and murdered at least 13 people. Dennis Rader. Dennis Rader, aka BTK, murdered at least 10 people in Kansas between 1974 and 1991. His victims were often bound, and he would keep trophies from his female victims, including underwear, licenses, and personal items.